Hi, everybody. This is Clay and Sonia. We're glad to have you today. We've got some special friends with us that we want to interview and talk a little bit about our program. This is Rachel and Dave Larley. We have known the Larleys for, I guess, 6 years now, right at it. And we're going to kind of pick their brains a little bit today on what our program's about. And they've had a chance to work with us. Besides being friends, they've been a part of different parts of our program. And so we're just going to, if it's okay with you guys, we're just going to kind of pick your brain and ask you some questions and see what it was like for you.
Fantastic.
Okay?
Sounds great.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and doing this with us.
So let's dive in. Let's look back a little bit before you went through our program at all. What was happening in your relationship at that point?
So we moved from the UK 10 years ago. And so when we first were introduced to Safe Conversations, we had been in the States for maybe 3 years. And Dave's in full-time Christian ministry. We had at the time we had 2 boys, and I'm a teacher. And we had some marriage help, and we'd both seen therapists, counselors, we'd had spiritual mentors, all sorts of different people along the way to help us. But I think as with a big move, a big transition, often it takes time for the heart and the mind to connect, and for the heart to catch up with where we were. And I think the move itself, there's always grief when you move, and cultural differences. There was just a lot for us to process, being away from all the people that knew us and knew our story. So therefore we were relying more on each other to support each other. So we were building friendships and relationships. So I'd say.
And our boys were 6 and 4.5.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to do all this without the ability of having a full conversation.
Yeah.
Minor details. There you go.
All the constant interruptions and all that kind of stuff.
The demands for snacks.
Okay.
So what was it that got you interested in working with us?
Well, we went on, how we found you as we went to a number of churches that we knew of in the area, one of which was Upper Room, because the church where I was working had shared some space with them. And that's how we found the workshop over, I think the first one we did was over 4 or 5 Mondays.
Yeah.
And after the first session, we left and we thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be really good. And I think to date, we've done your material, at least the course 5 times, and then we supplemented with stuff from you throughout. So.
Oh, thank you.
All right. When you started it, though, when you first looked at it, did you have any hesitation about or any doubts about doing it when you first started?
I mean, always whenever you enter a new situation and you're with other people, there's that kind of fight and flight feeling that kicks in. And I'm not big on group discussions, that kind of thing. But what I liked about Safe Conversations was that it was very much Dave and I. Yes, other people were there, but it was about us. And I really appreciated that, because I know lots of marriage things, you sit around in a circle and you all talk. This wasn't that. This was our time. We didn't have to worry about trying to be friends with everybody. It was just about us. So that we really appreciated that.
And I remember doing a bit of reading, and in some of the promo material leading up to class, you talked about the space in between. And I think for me, I realized, so I was in a pattern where I was doing everything right, but because of all the stuff going on, I wasn't able to, do the things and maintain a tenderness. I was just like ticking the boxes off the list. And I think that idea of the space between us and God moving into that and was really appealing to me. And I was like, well, if we could find that out, that's probably something that we could really do with. Yeah.
All right.
So tell us what happened after. What was the benefit that you saw after going through the program?
I think one of the big benefits was that so many more dots were joined up. So I suddenly became more aware of why I was reacting to something, and actually at times it being disproportionate to the situation itself. I think that the fruit of just dots being drawn, realizing that we were bringing extra baggage to everyday life. I think that was one of the main ones.
And I just remember that there were a few topics that every time we broached it, I was responding in a way that didn't make sense. And I think through doing the workshop, we realized that actually it was linked to something that I had picked up growing up, and the realization that Rachel was actually through the dialogues and the tools that you taught us was perfectly placed to help me kind of unpick that and kind of, I guess, get free from whatever that trigger was, so that we could actually talk about I can't remember what the topic was at the moment, but how we're going to spend spring break or whatever it was. Yeah.
All right. With where you are now, and what is your vision for your relationship, moving forward with where you are now?
So we're heading in a few months to Dave's been given a sabbatical, which is phenomenal. We're so excited. Yeah. And so we will be taking our booklets with us on sabbatical. We'll have more time to think. I love the message that you bring about us being, as Dave said, God designed our marriage to be a place of healing for us. And that theme has also carried through to our children. And so seeing that God's given us our children with all their uniqueness, all their individualities, but even that then can be a place of healing for us.
So you're using what you learned for each other with the kids too.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we're throwing everything we got at them.
Can you share that story about the boys? That is wonderful.
Yeah. So we had, I think it was a Saturday afternoon, and they were this is my oldest two, were niggling at each other.
And they're 12 and 10. 12
and 10. Both got lots of things to say, lots of reactions, and it just felt like there was something else going on. And we tried kind of just have space from each other, la 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 la, and that wasn't working. And we had, I think, 45 minutes. Dave took our youngest, we've now got three, our youngest out to the park or something, and I had the two oldest boys, and I said, okay, we're going to stop. And I rushed to the cupboard, grabbed the handbooks, and we worked together through a frustration. And so we had the one booklet, and I said, look, let's find out what's really going on here. This is we're going to read this out, and I was amazed at how they there was a bit of a giggling, as you'd imagine, but they did dive in and they did make links. My oldest was halfway through, who was like, oh, this is very clever. I can see why they're doing this. And
they get it faster than we do a lot of times.
Oh gosh, yeah. And that's what I love about the Safe Conversations is it's all based on brain science. And that I've got a background in psychology, and so I just love all that, and to see that work with the children, and they were able to work out the bigger picture, to dive deep, to go back to memories of years before, of situations that they had, that each other had hurt each other, and then come to a place of okay, this is going to be my gift to you. I'm going to, not say this, or I'm going to not say that. And then at the end, my middle son just leaned over to his brother and just gave him a big hug.
Which is rare.
Yeah.
He's not like, that was new-ish.
Yeah. And my oldest was like, what's going on? Like, looked at me as if to
What
say,
is this?
what's going on?
Let's go with it.
Yeah. And then one of them farted, and that was that, back to normal boy life, which was great. So but it was good, and then I was able to say, hey, since then, do you remember that conversation we had? Do you remember what's going on? And also, I think the other piece is what it's making me do is, during certain situations where I'm noticing I'm responding more than what this situation requires of me, and asking myself, okay, what does this remind me of? Where have I been in this situation before? So it's been helpful personally, even without the dialogue, but just to kind of have an internal dialogue myself. Yeah.
And yeah, it's just been incredible.
Right.
So is there anything that surprised you? Any part of the program that really, really surprised you?
I think, you get the message when you enter into marriage that you've got to be a good listener, right? I mean, it's kind of in every book, it's there. And especially with all that's kind of happened, with where we are as a culture at the moment, where very few people actually do listen, but everyone's always broadcasting. I have actually taken the parts of the dialogues of how to do the active listening, and we've been going through a pretty dynamic / chaotic time at work with a lot of transition, and I have actively been using those what are they called, stems, and saying okay, let me see if I got that. Did I get it? Is there more, with my staff? And it's been really powerful because it enables them to feel like we've got a lot to do, but it's a really good way for them to feel validated with all they're feeling. And so recently we had you in to do a workshop at the church, and the whole staff came, and there was a moment where they learned around, they looked at us and says, you've been doing this to us and you haven't told us what it is. And one of them said, oh, that's why I feel so much better. So I just think with a surprise to me is that, yes, I would, learning to listen and communicate is always ongoing here, but it's also given me a really powerful tool that I've been able to use in other areas as well, when we've had to manage big change.
Okay. Oh, well, that makes sense with it. What would you say to somebody that's in a similar situation, that either that you were in before or now, and they're kind of sitting on the fence and not sure if they should join and to use this tool or not? What would you say to them?
I would say go for it, because when you do courses, if you take 10% of what you learn and put it into practice, change has already happened. But there's so much that the Safe Conversation scheme or curriculum gives you, and there'll be different tools for different seasons, and we're always changing. And I think the Safe Conversation techniques set you up for success with change. So yeah.
I'd say that we've intentionally been trying to, we've done a number of events with you, Clay and Sonia, at the church, because one is we have a lot of parents with young children. And when you're newly married, that's kind of everything's hooray for everything, the honeymoon phase. Then life sets in and you think, okay, we got to work at this. But when the children come, things can really quickly become transactional, and you can stop working at it because you've got to spend Saturday driving to all the soccer games or whatever. And so I would say that the value, just like people will spend an incredible amount of money on their fitness, and then some don't even go, right? Or some maximize it. The return of investment on putting in the groundwork and the foundation of learning how to communicate and listen really, really goes a long, long way. And so my encouragement would be invest in your relationship through this program. And in other ways too, that I'm sure, you'll encourage people to think about, because the return is just absolutely incredible.
Right. Well, thanks for taking a little time. I know you guys are super busy, and just so appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us and sharing for those that are going to be watching this. And we'll look forward to getting together